We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. Have you ever found yourself standing on the precipice of despair, questioning whether your prayers are truly being heard? In those moments of silence, when it seems like the heavens are closed and your cries for help are met with nothing but echoing voids, the weight of your burdens can feel unbearable. Yet, it is precisely in these valleys of darkness that your faith is being refined and your character molded. The path to answered prayers is not always immediate. It requires a steadfast heart, an unwavering resolve to keep pressing forward, even when the road ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. Today, we gather in faith and devotion, seeking God's divine assistance for every area of our lives where we feel the most vulnerable. Perhaps it's the relentless financial pressures that leave you awake at night, the professional setbacks that make you doubt your worth, or the emotional wounds that seem to deepen with each passing day. Maybe you are carrying the weight of concern for the health of a loved one, watching helplessly as they battle illness. Whatever your burden may be, know this: God is with you in your struggles. His timing may not align with your expectations, but His plan is perfect, and His answers are always right on time. The secret to obtaining these answers lies in perseverance, in keeping your purpose firm, even when every fiber of your being is tempted to give up. But let me ask you, what is it that you truly desire from God? What is the deepest cry of your heart that you have yet to voice? It is in these unspoken longings, in the quiet desperation that resides in the corners of your soul, that God is already at work. He hears you, even when you feel unheard. He sees your tears, even when they fall in the solitude of night. And He is faithful to respond, though His ways are higher than ours and His methods often mysterious. As we continue this journey together, I urge you to remain with us, to open your heart fully to the possibility of divine intervention. Let this message of hope take root in your spirit, reminding you that perseverance in prayer is the bridge between your current pain and the future victory God has already ordained for you. Before we move on to the next part of this message, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect and share in the comments, where do you need God's hand the most in your life right now? Whether it's in your finances, your career, your relationships, or your health, voicing your need is the first step in receiving God's help. And if this message has touched you, please like it and share it with others, so that they too might find the strength to persevere in their own battles. God is not done with you, yet the best is yet to come. Can I get a thank you, Jesus, from you? In the quiet moments of despair, have you ever felt the weight of life's burdens pressing down so heavily that you wondered if you could continue? C.S. Lewis once posed a profound question: why do we find it so hard to rest in the fact that God is in control? This is where the essence of Isaiah 40 verse 31 truly resonates, echoing not just a promise but an invitation to surrender. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. This verse isn't merely a poetic assurance. It is a call to recognize that true strength comes not from our efforts, but from our willingness to rest in God's unwavering support. Lewis reminds us that our human tendency is to rely on our strength, to press forward, even when we are drained and weary. But this is precisely when we must relinquish control and trust in the divine. Do we not often forget that in our greatest weakness, God's strength is made perfect? Reflecting on this, one might ask, what does it truly mean to wait on the Lord? It is more than passive patience. It is active trust. It is choosing to believe, even in the midst of chaos, that God's timing and provision are perfect. Just as Lewis observed, faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted. In spite of your changing moods, how often do we allow our fluctuating emotions to dictate our trust in God's promises? Yet, it is in the steadfastness of faith that we find the energy to rise above life's challenges. The metaphor of mounting up with wings like eagles is powerful. It speaks of rising above the storms of life, carried not by our strength, but by the winds of God's grace. The eagle, known for its ability to soar effortlessly above tumultuous winds, symbolizes the believer who trusts in God's power rather than their own. Lewis would argue that this is the essence of Christian living, to find our strength renewed, not in striving, but in surrender. Are we not most alive when we let go of our fears and doubts, allowing God to lift us to heights we could never reach on our own? In our daily walk, it is easy to become weary, to feel faint under the pressures of life. Yet, this verse calls us to persist, not by our might, but by God's Spirit. As Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Perhaps it is through our weariness and exhaustion that God is calling us to draw nearer to him, to seek his strength rather than our own. Have you considered that your moments of deepest fatigue might be the very places where God desires to meet you, to renew you, and to give you the wings to soar above it all? In trusting God, we find not just the strength to carry on, but the grace to rise above, to run the race set before us without growing weary, and to walk the path of faith without fainting. Are we willing to trust him fully, to surrender our burdens, and to allow his strength to be made perfect in our weakness? This is the journey of faith, a journey that, when traveled with God, leads us to victories far greater than we could ever achieve on our own. Imagine life not just as a marathon, but as a journey across a vast, uncharted wilderness. In such a journey, it's easy to lose sight of the destination, especially when the terrain becomes treacherous and the path unclear. Yet, isn't it in these moments of uncertainty that our true character is revealed? C.S. Lewis once posed a profound question: what do people mean when they say, "I am not afraid of God because I know he is good"? Have they never even been to a dentist? His words remind us that trusting in God's goodness does not exempt us from pain or discomfort. Rather, it deepens our faith through trials. As we navigate this wilderness, our purpose acts like a compass, guiding us toward our true north, even when the way seems blocked by insurmountable obstacles. But how do we find the strength to press on when the journey drains us of energy and hope? Lewis often spoke of the need for a daily renewal of our spiritual strength, much like how travelers rely on the sustenance they carry to survive each leg of their journey. Prayer, then, becomes our spiritual nourishment, our daily bread that sustains us when our strength wanes. But do we truly grasp the power of prayer? Or do we sometimes pray with the faint hope that God might intervene, rather than with the bold confidence that he will? Lewis reminds us that prayer is not about changing God's mind, but about aligning our will with his. When we pray, we are not merely asking for solutions to our problems, we are inviting God to walk with us through the wilderness, trusting that he will lead us to a place of refuge and renewal. In every step we take, we must remember that God is not only with us but also ahead of us, preparing the way. He transforms our trials into testimonies, our tears into triumphs. Just as Lewis observed, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Our faith is not a shield from challenges, but a force that shapes us into resilient travelers, capable of finding joy even in the midst of sorrow. So as you face the uncertainties and difficulties of your journey, ask yourself, are you relying on your own strength? Or are you drawing from the wellspring of God's infinite grace? Are you merely enduring the journey? Or are you embracing it as a divine adventure, filled with opportunities for growth and transformation? Keep your purpose firm, continue in prayer, and trust that God's plan for you is greater than anything you can imagine. Your victories are not just ahead, they are being forged in the trials you face today. Write your intentions with faith, for God's help is already on its way, turning your pain into a powerful testimony of his unwavering love and faithfulness. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to trust in something greater than yourself when the world around you seems to crumble? In Luke 1 verse 37, we are reminded that for with God, nothing will be impossible. But do we really grasp the depth of this promise, especially when faced with the harshest realities life can throw at us? C.S. Lewis once remarked, "Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods." How often do we allow our moods, shaped by fear or doubt, to cloud the truth we once embraced with conviction? Consider a moment when you faced a situation so daunting that it felt like a dead end, a maze with no clear exit. You may have felt hopeless, questioning if there was any way out of your circumstances. But what if, like a master architect, God sees the entirety of the maze from above. Every twist, turn, and potential dead end is within his sight. And here's the profound truth: he's not just a distant observer, he's actively guiding you, even when you can't see the path ahead. In the story of Job, we see a man who faced unimaginable suffering, yet his faith in God's sovereignty never wavered. Why? Because Job understood that God's wisdom far exceeded human understanding. Similarly, when we encounter obstacles that seem insurmountable, it's easy to feel abandoned or lost. But Lewis challenges us to view these moments as opportunities to deepen our trust. He said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Could it be that our greatest struggles are not signs of God's absence, but rather his way of drawing us closer, urging us to lean not on our understanding but on his divine guidance? In those moments of despair, ask yourself, do I trust that God, who created the universe with a word, can create a solution to my problem, even when none seems possible? Just as the Israelites faced the seemingly impossible at the Red Sea, with an army behind them and an impassable sea before them, God made a way where there was none. He parted the waters, turning an impossible situation into a miraculous deliverance. Your life, too, is filled with such opportunities for God to demonstrate his power. Will you let him? Will you, like Job, remain steadfast in your belief that God's word is final, even when circumstances scream otherwise? Remember, faith is not the absence of doubt, but the decision to trust God despite it. So, the next time you feel trapped in a maze of uncertainty, consider this: what if the very walls that seem to confine you are the boundaries of a path God is carving out for your victory? Let your faith guide you, trusting that he sees the full picture and will lead you through, no matter how impossible it seems. In moments of deep sorrow, when the weight of loss feels unbearable, it's natural to question your worth, to wonder if you could have done something differently to change the outcome. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, are these thoughts leading you to healing or further into despair? C.S. Lewis once reflected, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." What if this pain you're feeling is not a sign of your failure, but rather an invitation to grow, to understand the depth of your own heart? Consider the truth that not every departure from your life is your fault. Lewis reminds us in The Problem of Pain that pain insists upon being attended to. It's a call to examine, not to blame. When someone chooses to leave, it may not be a reflection of your inadequacies, but rather of their inability to recognize your value. How often have you replayed moments in your mind, searching for a mistake that never existed? This endless cycle of self-reproach only blinds you to the reality that you were never the issue. What if, instead of questioning your actions, you began to understand that love, when genuine, is reciprocated? The love you offered was true and pure, but the other person was not prepared to receive it. This doesn't diminish your worth, it highlights your capacity to love deeply, something that Lewis would argue is a strength, not a weakness. Now, what if God is preparing someone who will cherish every part of you, someone who will see your worth without you needing to prove it? Lewis once said, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. You have shown the courage to love, and that is no small feat." Perhaps this heartache is a step towards something greater, a relationship that will honor the love you have to give. Instead of dwelling on what might have been, can you trust that God is orchestrating something beyond your current understanding? The future is not defined by your past losses, but by the promise that there is someone who will see you as the most fascinating person on earth, as you are. Embrace this truth: your value remains. Your worth is intact, and God is leading you toward a love that is as genuine as the one you've been ready to give. Why do we often fixate on our outward appearance, striving to mold ourselves into society's fleeting standards, when we are already crafted in the image of the Creator? C.S. Lewis once said, "You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body." This profound truth beckons us to shift our focus from the temporary shell to the eternal essence within. Instead of agonizing over our weight, physique, or hair, shouldn't we be nurturing the soul that resides within? The one who truly loves you will see past the exterior and cherish the masterpiece God has already made you to be. Have you ever wondered why it feels like everyone has left you in your most vulnerable moments? Could it be that this solitude is a divine setup, a necessary pause for your heart to heal and prepare for the right person? Rather than lamenting over those who walked away, consider this: perhaps they were never meant to be part of your story's next chapter. You are not the problem, rather. You are the solution waiting to emerge when the time is right. Lewis reminds us in The Problem of Pain that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Could your pain be the catalyst for your growth, a refining fire preparing you for something greater? It's easy to fall into the trap of self-blame, convincing yourself that you're unlucky in love. But what if love is not a matter of luck but of timing and readiness? True love, the kind that reflects God's unconditional love for us, requires a heart that has been mended, a spirit that has been renewed. The tears you shed now are not signs of weakness but of a deep transformation. As Psalm 30 verse 5 reminds us, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. This isn't just a promise, it's a lifeline. Every tear you've cried is watering the seeds of your future joy. What if the real work is not in searching for love but in becoming whole? Instead of waiting for someone to recognize your worth, start recognizing it yourself. Your healing is not a destination but a journey, one that prepares you for the new opportunities that God has in store. Each painful experience is a stepping stone, each lonely night a canvas for God's morning of joy. When you allow yourself to heal, you make room for the love that mirrors the divine, a love that sees you as the masterpiece you truly are. Will you embrace the healing and trust in God's perfect timing? Imagine your heart as a canvas, once vibrant with colors, but now faded after a harsh storm. The rains have left the soil beneath soaked, and the flowers that once bloomed so beautifully now appear wilted. But is this the end? Or could it be the beginning of something even more beautiful? C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." Have you ever wondered why God allows certain storms to sweep through your life? Perhaps it's not to destroy you, but to prepare you for a deeper, richer experience. Just as an artist returns to a worn canvas with new inspiration, God returns to your heart with renewed purpose, ready to paint a new masterpiece if you allow him. Consider the moments of pain as the chisel that shapes your soul, carving out space for new joy, love, and opportunities. Lewis also remarked, "Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Could it be that the very pain you resist is the tool God uses to create something extraordinary in your life? The wounds in your heart are not signs of weakness but of resilience and transformation. What if, instead of seeing your challenges as barriers, you viewed them as stepping stones to a life more abundant than you ever imagined? Your heart, though weathered, is still fertile ground. New seeds of hope, love, and peace are waiting to be planted. But just as a garden requires care, your heart requires time, patience, and faith. Will you allow yourself to believe that you are worthy of this new season? Can you trust that God's timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed? As you reflect on these questions, remember that you are not alone. I stand with you, feeling the warmth of God's presence as he uses me to remind you that your journey is far from over. Let us join hands in prayer, lifting our voices to the heavens, asking for divine intervention. Calm your heart, for God is near, and he is about to open doors you never knew existed. Today is the day to look up, to let your heart be filled with hope once more. The battle is not yours alone. God fights alongside you, breaking the chains of fatigue, renewing your strength in his name. This is not the end, this is your new beginning. A new chapter waiting to be written with the ink of God's grace and love. Have you ever found yourself standing at the edge of exhaustion, questioning whether you can continue? In these moments, where do you turn for solace and renewal? C.S. Lewis once said, Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. This quote resonates deeply when we feel worn down by life's challenges. We often forget that the most intense battles come just before the breakthrough, and that it is precisely in our weakness that God's strength is made perfect. Imagine being in a dark tunnel with no end in sight. It's easy to feel that you are walking this path alone, yet Jeremiah 29 verse 11 serves as a beacon of hope, reminding us that God has not abandoned us. He has designed a future filled with peace and prosperity for you. Every tear you've shed, every whispered prayer, and every silent struggle have not gone unnoticed. God is intricately weaving these moments into a plan of victory that will unfold in His perfect timing. C.S. Lewis also remarked, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." This sentiment captures the fear we often feel in the midst of our trials. But remember, as Psalm 30 verse 5 assures us, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. This pain is but a fleeting moment in the grand tapestry God is weaving. The dawn of your joy is breaking, and the night will not last forever. In Matthew 11 verse 28, Jesus extends an invitation, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This is not just a promise, it is a lifeline thrown to us in our deepest moments of fatigue. When was the last time you truly rested in Him, letting go of your burdens to embrace His peace? The fight that has drained your energy is almost over. Lift your head, for your renewal is near. Trust that the Lord, who is your refuge and strength, is transforming your fatigue into renewed vigor, your sorrow into unspeakable joy, and your struggles into triumphs that will testify of His glory. So, as you stand at this crossroads, ask yourself, will you succumb to the weariness, or will you place your trust in the God who never grows weary? Your renewal is not just a possibility, it is a promise. Lift your head, for the Lord is preparing something magnificent for you. In this very moment, as you place your faith in Him, He is breaking the chains of fatigue and pouring out His strength and victory over your life. Your renewal is coming. Regain your hope, for God's help is coming. Write your name so that I can present it to God and prophesy, before this day ends, I will have a testimony to share. Like this message so that more people can be reached by this prayer. Prepare your heart for us to consecrate at the end of the prayer. Share this prayer with 7 people who need God's help. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive our prayers and activate all notifications. It is free and will allow you to hear the Word of God every day and strengthen yourself spiritually through faith. In the quiet moments of our lives, when the weight of the world presses heavily upon us, have you ever wondered where you can find refuge? How can you escape the relentless storms that rage within and around you? The answer, perhaps, lies not in running away but in surrendering to the one who knows you more intimately than you know yourself. C.S. Lewis once pondered the nature of God's omniscience and omnipresence, asking, "Isn't it astonishing that God can simultaneously hear all our prayers, whispered or spoken, and yet give each one His undivided attention?" This profound thought invites us to reflect on the depth of God's understanding of us, a theme beautifully captured in Psalm 139. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of the vast ocean. The waves crash against the shore, each one unique, yet part of a greater whole. In much the same way, God knows every detail of your life, every thought, every action, every tear shed in the darkness of the night. Just as the ocean cannot be contained, neither can the knowledge and presence of God be limited. Where could you go that His love does not reach? As Lewis suggested, even in the darkest corners of our souls, where we hide our deepest fears and sins, God's light penetrates, offering healing and grace. Psalm 139 speaks of a God who is not distant but near, a God who has searched me and known me. Psalm 139 verse 1. But what does it mean to be known by God? To be truly known, as C.S. Lewis might say, is both a comfort and a challenge. It means that we cannot hide our flaws or our failures, but it also means that we are loved and accepted despite them. This divine knowledge is not something to fear but to embrace, for it leads us to the path of transformation and renewal. Have you ever felt the urge to flee, to escape the burdens that weigh you down? Psalm 139 reminds us that no matter where we go, whether we ascend to the heavens or descend into the depths of despair, God is there. His hand guides us. His right hand holds us fast. This is not a restrictive presence but a liberating one, as C.S. Lewis beautifully illustrated in his works. The awareness of God's constant companionship frees us from the need to control every aspect of our lives, allowing us to rest in His care. In the final verses of Psalm 139, the psalmist's plea, "Search me, O God, and know my heart, try me, and know my anxieties," Psalm 139 verse 23, is a call to openness and vulnerability before God. It is an invitation to let God examine the darkest corners of our hearts and lead us in the way everlasting. Lewis once noted that God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from Himself because it is not there. There is no such thing. This truth resonates deeply in Psalm 139, reminding us that true peace and contentment are found only in surrendering to God's will and allowing His light to shine into our lives. So, as you meditate on this powerful psalm, ask yourself, where do I need to let God's light in? What areas of my life have I kept hidden, thinking I could manage on my own? Remember, the God who formed you in your mother's womb, who knows every fiber of your being, is the same God who walks with you through every trial and triumph. Trust in His presence, for it is both a refuge and a guide, leading you ever closer to the way everlasting. When the waves of life seem overwhelming, have you ever wondered where your strength truly lies? It's in these moments that the words of C.S. Lewis echo profoundly. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Have you paused to consider that your struggles might be the very tools God uses to draw you closer to Him? As you navigate the complexities of life, remember to ask for the grace you need, for it is in this grace that God's transformative power is revealed. Open your heart to the divine, saying, "Lord, act in this cause." I thank you for the victory that, though unseen, is already on its way. The psalmist reminds us, "I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." Psalm 121 verse 1-2. Can you feel the weight of those words, knowing that the Creator Himself is your refuge? In times of uncertainty, it is easy to be consumed by doubt. Yet, have you ever considered that God's final word on your life transcends all human understanding? Even when medical diagnoses or discouraging news threaten to overshadow your hope, it's crucial to trust that God, who is the God of the impossible, is at work. How often do we forget that He can make a way where none seems possible? Lift your eyes beyond the immediate and trust in the path He has laid out, even when it feels obscured. Like Lewis said, relying on God has to begin all over again, every day, as if nothing had yet been done. This reliance is what renews our strength and fortifies our faith, allowing us to rise each day with purpose. What if, instead of dwelling on past mistakes, you allowed God to renew your spirit and open your heart to new beginnings? The journey of faith is not about perfection but perseverance. God sees your tears, your doubts, and your fears, yet He values you more than you may ever know. How comforting is it to realize that He knows you intimately, every thought, every feeling. As you walk this path, ask Him to search your heart, to guide you away from the wrong paths, and to lead you toward His everlasting way. In His presence, there is peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that assures you that you are never alone. Could it be that God's purpose for you is far greater than your current understanding? In these moments of reflection, allow your faith to anchor you, and let His presence be the source of your unshakable hope and joy. As you stand at the crossroads of your life's challenges, whether in your finances, career, emotions, or health, do you ever pause to reflect on the one who holds the blueprint of your existence? Just as C.S. Lewis profoundly observed, we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us, we are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be in moments of uncertainty. Where does your trust lie? God, who intricately formed you, knows every detail of your journey and has woven plans of peace and prosperity into the fabric of your days. Do you find comfort in surrendering to His will, even when the path seems unclear? Resting in God's promises is not merely an act of passive waiting but an active engagement in faith, knowing that His faithfulness is unshakable. As you consider the struggles you face, what burdens weigh heavily on your heart? The Lord, who sees every tear and hears every cry, is the same God who renews the strength of the weary and breathes life into the discouraged. C.S. Lewis reminds us that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Are you listening for His voice in your suffering? As you lift your burdens to Him, trust that He is not only capable of lifting you, but is already working behind the scenes to bring about something extraordinary in your life. In this moment of reflection, let's unite in prayer, echoing the words of Jesus Himself. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. As you recite these words, do they resonate deeply within your soul? Are you inviting God's kingdom into every area of your life, surrendering your will to His perfect plan? Remember, His kingdom is not of this world, but it is alive and active within you. So as you seek His guidance today, may you find strength, peace, and a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the God who holds the universe also holds your life in His hands. Amen. Imagine standing at the crossroads of life, where the weight of uncertainty presses down on your spirit and the journey ahead seems daunting. In moments like these, where do you turn? How do you anchor your soul when the storms of life rage around you? C.S. Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." This profound insight beckons us to consider the deeper purpose behind our struggles and to lean into the divine whispers that guide our path. What if, in the midst of your trials, you chose to declare with unwavering confidence, "I trust that God's voice has the final say in all things, and He will carve a path to my victory"? Picture the transformative power of this belief, where every challenge becomes an opportunity for God's hand to move mightily in your life. It's not just about enduring the hardships, but about seeing them as a stage set for the greatest victories born from a faith that remains unshaken, a purpose that stays firm even when the world trembles around you. As you wipe away the tears that have clouded your vision, do you find the courage to stop blaming yourself? Can you embrace the truth that new opportunities for love and happiness are not lost but are being prepared in the unseen? When you lift your eyes to the heavens, where your help comes from, do you feel the strength and hope that infuses your weary soul, propelling you forward? C.S. Lewis reminds us that the future is something which everyone reaches at the rate of 60 minutes an hour, whatever he does, whoever he is. In this steady march of time, trust that God, who meticulously crafted every detail of your being, will guide your steps on a path that leads to everlasting joy and fulfillment. Breathe deeply, knowing that this sacred moment with God is exactly what your soul craved. In the quiet, when answers seem distant, continue to press on, holding fast to the belief that your breakthrough is imminent. Consecrate your heart, preparing it to receive the medicine of peace, wisdom, and strength that only God can provide. Let your spirit be renewed, and do not abandon the spiritual practices that sustain you. Trust in the one who holds your future, and soon you will witness a victory beyond your wildest dreams. Now, think of 7 people in your life who need to hear this message, who need to be reminded of God's unyielding faithfulness. Share these words with them, creating a chain of hope and encouragement that grows stronger with each new link. Remember, God has heard your prayers, and He is working in ways you cannot yet see. Write, "I believe" as a testament to your faith, and may God's abundant blessings overflow in your life.